A struggling mom delivered food with her daughter to survive, until one day a millionaire made her an unexpected offer. "Please don't cry, baby. Mama's got this." Sarah's voice cracked as she juggled the heavy delivery bag, while Luna squirmed in her chest carrier. The food containers were slipping from her grasp, and she could feel disaster approaching like a slow-motion movie scene. "I'm so sorry," she called out to the tall man who had just opened the penthouse door. "I can get you a replacement order right away, I promise." James Wellington stared at the woman in front of him, takeout containers scattered across his pristine hallway floor. Thai curry soaked into the expensive carpet, and the woman holding a toddler looked like she might collapse from exhaustion. But something about her face struck him as familiar. "Wait," he said, stepping closer. "You're the driver who always delivers my Tuesday orders." Sarah wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, trying to maintain some dignity. "Yes, sir, and I've just ruined your dinner. I'll pay for the replacement myself." "You've been delivering to me for months," James continued, ignoring the mess. "Always on time, always professional." Luna chose that moment to let out a happy babble, reaching tiny hands toward the stranger. James found himself smiling despite the situation. "She's beautiful," he said softly. "Thank you." Sarah's defensive walls shot back up. "Look, I know this looks bad, but I'm usually much more reliable. My car broke down today, and I had to borrow a bike, and Luna's been fussy because she missed her nap. Come inside." The words hung in the air between them. Sarah blinked in confusion. "Excuse me?" "It's starting to rain," James said, gesturing to the storm clouds gathering outside his floor-to-ceiling windows. "Come inside, both of you." Sarah clutched Luna tighter. "I can't, I have other deliveries." "In this weather with a baby?" Thunder rumbled overhead as if to prove his point. Luna startled at the sound, and Sarah instinctively rocked her. "I need the money," Sarah admitted, hating how desperate she sounded. "Today was supposed to be my biggest tip day, and now—" "How much would you have made today? I don't see how that's your business." James pulled out his phone. "I'm canceling your other deliveries and paying you double what you would have earned. Consider it a consulting fee." "A what?" "I want to talk to you about my app, about how it really works for drivers like you." He stepped aside, making room for her to enter. "Please, let me help." Sarah stared at him, her mind racing. Every instinct told her this was too good to be true. Rich men didn't invite delivery drivers into their penthouses out of kindness. There had to be a catch. But Luna was getting heavier in the carrier, and the rain was starting to fall harder. Her bike was parked 15 stories below, and she had exactly $12 in her checking account. "Just until the storm passes," she said finally. "Just until the storm passes," James agreed. As they stepped into his apartment, Sarah couldn't help but gasp. The space was enormous, all clean lines and expensive furniture. Luna's eyes went wide as she took in the massive windows and the city spread out below them. "Nice place," Sarah said, trying not to let her awe show. "It's too big for one person," James replied, and something in his voice made her look at him more closely. "You live here alone?" "Work keeps me busy." Luna squirmed to get down, and Sarah hesitated before unbuckling her from the carrier. "She's very active. She might touch things. That's what things are for." As Luna toddled toward the windows, pressing her small palms against the glass, James watched with an expression Sarah couldn't quite read. "You said you wanted to talk about your app?" she prompted. "Fresh Connect. I created it 3 years ago." Sarah's mouth fell open. "You're the owner." Guilty as charged. He moved to the kitchen area. "Coffee? Or something for her?" "You don't have to." "I want to." Something in his tone made her stop protesting. She watched as he pulled out a container of crackers and some apple slices, arranging them on a small plate with the care of someone who understood how to feed a toddler. "Do you have kids?" she asked. "No." His smile was sad. "But I pay attention." Luna clapped her hands when she saw the snacks, and James's face lit up at her enthusiasm. "She likes you," Sarah observed. "The feeling is mutual." He sat down across from them, suddenly looking less like a wealthy businessman and more like a regular person. "Tell me about driving for Fresh Connect, the real version, not the corporate survey answers." "Why do you care?" "Because I built this app to help people make money, and I want to know if it's actually working." Sarah studied his face, looking for signs of deception, but his eyes were sincere, and Luna had already made herself comfortable on his expensive couch. "It's hard," she said finally. The pay varies so much you can't budget. Car maintenance costs eat up half your earnings, and when something goes wrong like today, there's no safety net. James nodded, pulling out his phone to take notes. What would make it better? Guaranteed minimum hourly rate, car repair assistance, maybe childcare help for drivers who are parents? Those are good ideas. They're expensive ideas. I can afford expensive. Rain lashed against the windows as Luna curled up on the couch, her eyes growing heavy. Sarah felt her own exhaustion catching up with her as the adrenaline of the day faded. I should go, she said, but made no move to get up. The storm's getting worse. As if on cue, lightning illuminated the apartment, followed by a crash of thunder that made them both jump. Luna stirred but didn't wake. Maybe a few more minutes, Sarah conceded. James disappeared into another room and returned with a soft blanket, which he gently draped over Luna's sleeping form. The gesture was so tender, so natural, that Sarah felt something shift in her chest. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For not making me feel like a charity case. Their eyes met across the sleeping child, and Sarah saw something in James's expression that took her breath away. Not pity, not condescension, but recognition. As if he saw her not as a struggling single mother, but as a person worthy of respect. I have a proposition for you, he said quietly. What kind of proposition? Work with me. Help me fix Fresh Connect. Make it better for drivers like you. Sarah's defensive wall slammed back into place. I can't afford to work for free. I'm talking about a real job with real pay, enough to... Stop! Sarah stood up abruptly. I know how this works. Rich guy feels sorry for poor girl, offers her money, expects something in return. That's not what this is, isn't it? She moved to wake Luna, but James caught her arm gently. Give me a chance to prove it. The sincerity in his voice made her pause. Luna stirred, blinking sleepy eyes at both of them. Mama, she mumbled. We're going home, baby. But as Sarah looked around the warm apartment, then out at the storm still raging beyond the windows, she realized she wasn't sure where home was anymore. Her tiny apartment with its broken heater and overdue bills suddenly felt very far away. 1 week, James said. Give me 1 week to show you I'm serious about this, about helping drivers, about making the app better. And if I don't like what I see, then you walk away, no questions asked, but you keep the consulting fee either way. Sarah looked down at Luna, who was studying James with the solemn curiosity of a 3-year-old. How much? She asked. When James named the figure, Sarah's knees nearly gave out. It was more than she made in a month of deliveries. That's too much. It's what your expertise is worth. You don't even know if my expertise is any good. I've been watching you work for months, Sarah. You're professional, reliable, and kind to every customer. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. The sound of her name on his lips sent an unexpected warmth through her chest, but she pushed the feeling away. She couldn't afford to trust this, couldn't afford to hope. 1 week, she said finally. 1 week, James agreed. As the storm continued to rage outside, Sarah found herself wondering if she was making the biggest mistake of her life, or if sometimes the most unexpected offers really could change everything. You actually want my opinion on how to run a multi-million-dollar company? Sarah shifted Luna to her other hip as they stood in James's office 3 days later. The toddler was fascinated by the wall of monitors displaying real-time delivery data. Especially your opinion, James said, pulling up the Fresh Connect driver interface on his computer. Show me what you see when you log in. Sarah approached cautiously, still not entirely convinced this wasn't some elaborate setup. But when she saw the familiar screen that had been her lifeline for months, her professional instincts kicked in. This is the problem right here, she said, pointing to the earnings summary. You can't tell how much you're actually going to make until after you complete the delivery. See this estimated range? It's useless. James leaned closer, his attention completely focused on her explanation. Why? Because I need to know if it's worth taking a delivery across town. If the tip ends up being $2 instead of 10, I've just wasted an hour and a half a tank of gas. What would work better? Transparent pricing. Show the full amount up front, including the tip. But then customers might feel pressured to tip high just to get their food delivered quickly. Sarah laughed, but there was no humor in it. James, customers already tip based on how fast they want their food. The only difference is now drivers are gambling with their time and money. Luna started to fuss, reaching for the colorful graphics on the screen. James immediately minimized the work windows and pulled up a simple drawing program. "Here, Luna. Want to make some art?" The little girl clapped her hands as digital crayons appeared on the screen. Within minutes, she was happily scribbling while Sarah and James continued their discussion. "You're good with kids," Sarah observed. "I like their honesty. They don't have hidden agendas." Something in his tone made Sarah look at him more carefully. "Is that a problem you have, people with hidden agendas?" "Comes with the territory." James pulled up another screen. "What else would you change?" For the next hour, Sarah walked him through the daily frustrations of being a Fresh Connect driver, the app that crashed during peak hours, the customer rating system that could destroy a driver's livelihood over one bad day, the lack of communication when restaurants were running behind. James took notes on everything, asking follow-up questions that showed he was really listening. It was the first time in months that Sarah felt like her opinion actually mattered to someone. "These are all fixable problems," James said finally. "Expensive fixes. Not as expensive as losing good drivers." He turned to face her fully. "How many people have you seen quit Fresh Connect in the past few months?" Sarah thought about it. "At least a dozen that I know personally, probably more." "And how many new drivers seem to struggle with the platform?" "Most of them give up within 2 weeks." James nodded grimly. "We're hemorrhaging drivers, and I didn't even realize it. The corporate reports make everything look fine because they focus on total deliveries, not driver satisfaction. Numbers don't tell the whole story." "No, they don't." He looked at Luna, who was now drawing what appeared to be a very colorful house. "She's talented. She wants to be an artist when she grows up. Yesterday she told me she was going to paint murals on buildings. That's a pretty big dream for a 3-year-old. I want her to dream big." Sarah's voice was fierce. "I want her to believe she can be anything she wants." "What did you want to be when you were her age?" "A teacher, then a marketing director. Now I just want to be a good mom who can pay the bills." James was quiet for a moment. "What if you could be all of those things?" "Real life doesn't work that way." "Maybe it could." Before Sarah could respond, Marcus Thompson appeared in the doorway. James's business partner was tall and lean with sharp eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Sorry to interrupt," Marcus said, though his tone suggested he wasn't sorry at all. "James, we need to discuss the quarterly reports. Marcus, I'd like you to meet Sarah Martinez. She's our new driver experience consultant." Marcus's handshake was polite but cool. "Consultant? How interesting." Sarah caught the skepticism in his voice and felt her defenses rising. "Is there a problem with that?" "Not at all. I'm just curious about your qualifications." "She's been driving for us for 8 months, James said before Sarah could respond. "She knows the platform better than anyone in this room." "I'm sure she does." Marcus's smile didn't reach his eyes. "James, perhaps we could speak privately." "Actually, I should get going," Sarah said, moving to collect Luna from the computer. "It's almost nap time and Luna gets cranky when her schedule is disrupted." "Mama, look." Luna held up her digital artwork proudly. It was a mess of bright colors, but in the center was clearly a stick figure family, 2 tall figures and 1 small one. "That's beautiful, baby. Who are the people?" "That's you and that's me and that's Mr. James." Sarah's cheeks burned as both men looked at the drawing. "Luna, honey, Mr. James is just—" "I love it," James said sincerely. "Could I print a copy to keep in my office?" Luna beamed at him, and Sarah felt something dangerous flutter in her chest. This was exactly what she'd been afraid of. Luna getting attached to someone who might not stick around. "We really should go," Sarah said, her voice cooler than before. James walked them to the elevator, carrying Luna's tiny jacket and the printed copy of her artwork. "Same time tomorrow?" "I'll be here." "Good." He crouched down to Luna's level. "Thank you for the beautiful picture, Luna. It's going right on my wall. Will you draw with me tomorrow?" "If your mama says it's okay." Luna looked up at Sarah with hopeful eyes. "Please, Mama." "We'll see," Sarah said, which in mom speak meant probably yes. As the elevator doors closed, Sarah caught James's expression through the narrowing gap. He looked almost lonely, which was ridiculous because he was a millionaire with a successful company and probably a dozen people who wanted his attention. "I like Mr. James," Luna announced as they descended. "He seems nice," Sarah agreed carefully. "Is he going to be our friend?" Sarah's heart clenched. "I don't know, baby. We're just working together for a little while." But he made me snacks and he liked my picture, and he smells like soap. Despite herself, Sarah smiled. He does smell like soap. Good soap, not the cheap kind. Luna, honey, we don't talk about cheap and expensive things, remember? But it's true, Mrs. Chen next door uses the cheap soap and it smells like flowers that are trying too hard. Mr. James smells like trees. Sarah had noticed James's cologne too, something subtle and clean that made her want to lean closer when he was explaining things on the computer, which was exactly the kind of thinking that would get her in trouble. That evening, as Sarah tucked Luna into bed in their small apartment, her daughter's questions continued. Why don't we have a big house like Mr. James? Because big houses cost a lot of money, and we have different priorities. Like what? Like making sure you have good food and warm clothes and books to read. Luna considered this seriously. Mr. James has lots of books too. I saw them on his shelves. I'm sure he does. Mama, are you sad that we don't have more money? The question caught Sarah off guard. She thought she'd been hiding her stress better than that. Sometimes grown-ups worry about money, she said carefully, but that's not your job to worry about. Your job is to be a kid and learn and grow and be happy. I am happy, Luna said with the simple certainty of childhood, especially when we meet nice people like Mr. James. After Luna fell asleep, Sarah sat at her tiny kitchen table and stared at the consulting contract James had given her. The pay was more than generous. It would cover her rent for 3 months and leave enough for Luna's daycare and groceries. But there was something about Marcus's reaction that bothered her. The way he'd looked at her, like she was some kind of gold digger who'd manipulated her way into James's orbit. Maybe that's what everyone would think. Her phone buzzed with a text from James. Thank you for today. Your insights are already helping us plan some major improvements. Luna's artwork is now the centerpiece of my office wall. Sarah stared at the message for a long time before responding. She'll be thrilled to hear that. See you tomorrow. See you. What she didn't send was the dozens of other responses that came to mind. Questions about whether this was real, whether he actually saw her as a professional colleague, whether she was crazy to trust him. As she got ready for bed in the bathroom she shared with Luna, Sarah caught sight of herself in the mirror. For the first time in months, she didn't look exhausted. There was something different in her eyes. Not hope exactly, but maybe the possibility of hope. Don't get ahead of yourself, she whispered to her reflection. It's just a job, a temporary job. But as she drifted off to sleep, Sarah found herself thinking about the way James had looked at Luna's drawing, like it was genuinely precious to him, and the way he'd listened to her complaints about the app, not with polite tolerance, but with real interest. Maybe, just maybe, this unexpected offer really could change something. The drivers are calling it the Sarah update, Marcus said, sliding a tablet across James's desk. User satisfaction scores have jumped 15% since we implemented transparent pricing. James smiled as he scrolled through the feedback. Listen to this one. Finally, I can plan my day without playing delivery roulette. Thank you for actually listening to us. It's impressive, Marcus admitted grudgingly, though I still think we're moving too fast with these changes. Sarah knows what she's talking about. James looked up as voices echoed from the conference room. Through the glass walls he could see Sarah setting up her laptop, while Luna arranged crayons in careful rows on the table. She's been here every day for 3 weeks, James. With the kid. Luna. Her name is Luna. Right. Look, I'm not saying Sarah isn't good at her job, but this setup is getting complicated. James knew what Marcus meant. What had started as professional consulting sessions had evolved into something more personal. Sarah would arrive each morning with coffee for both of them, his black, hers with cream and 2 sugars. Luna would immediately claim the corner of his office where James had installed a small desk and art supplies. It felt like family in a way James had never experienced. Complicated how? James asked. You bought a car seat for your office, man, and yesterday I saw you Googling best preschools in Seattle. Luna mentioned she wants to go to school with other kids. Sarah's been worried about affording it. And that's your problem because... Before James could answer, Sarah knocked on his office door. Ready for the driver feedback meeting, she was wearing a navy blazer that James suspected was new, her hair pulled back in a professional bun that somehow made her look both competent and beautiful. Luna bounced beside her in a yellow dress that brought out the gold flecks in both their eyes. Mr. James, Luna ran to him with the uninhibited joy of a 3-year-old. "I drew you another picture." This one showed what appeared to be 3 people sitting around a table with laptops. "That's us working," Luna explained seriously. "You and Mama are making the food app better so drivers don't have to be sad." "It's perfect," James said, accepting the drawing like it was a precious gift. "This one's going on the refrigerator at home." "You don't have any pictures on your refrigerator at home," Marcus pointed out. "I do now." Sarah cleared her throat. "We should get started. I've compiled feedback from 47 drivers about the new features." In the conference room, Sarah transformed into the professional James had come to admire. She presented data with confidence, fielded questions from the development team, and pushed back when someone suggested a cost-cutting measure that would hurt drivers. "The car maintenance fund isn't optional," she said firmly when the CFO questioned the expense. "When a driver's car breaks down, they can't work. No work means no income, which means they leave the platform. We lose good people because of a fixable problem." "But the liability issues," the legal counsel began. "Are manageable," Sarah interrupted. "I've researched similar programs. We partner with approved mechanics, set spending limits, require documentation. It's not charity, it's smart business." James watched her command the room and felt pride swell in his chest. This was the woman he'd seen glimpses of during their first meeting. Intelligent, passionate, unafraid to fight for what she believed in. Luna, meanwhile, had set up her own meeting in the corner, complete with stuffed animals arranged in a circle and a toy laptop. She was explaining something very seriously to a teddy bear about making things fair for everybody. "Any other questions?" Sarah asked the room. "Actually, I have one," said Jennifer from marketing. "How do we communicate these changes to drivers? The usual email blasts get ignored." "Text messages," Sarah said immediately. "Short, direct, personalized when possible. And maybe a video from James explaining why we made the changes. Drivers want to know the CEO actually cares about them." "I could do that," James said. "What should I say?" "The truth. That you realized the platform wasn't working for drivers, so you hired one to help fix it. That their feedback matters and their success matters." After the meeting, as the team filed out discussing implementation timelines, Sarah began packing up her materials. Luna was already at James's side, showing him her stuffed animal meeting notes. "And Mr. Bear said that sharing snacks makes everyone happy," Luna explained. "Mr. Bear is very wise," James replied seriously. "Sarah," Marcus said, lingering by the door, "could I speak with you for a moment?" James looked up sharply, but Sarah nodded. "Of course. Privately." Something in Marcus's tone made James stand. "Marcus." "It's fine," Sarah said, though her jaw was tight. "Luna, why don't you help Mr. James put your new picture on his wall?" As Sarah and Marcus stepped into the hallway, James knelt to Luna's level, trying to hear their conversation through the glass. "Appreciate what you're doing for the company," Marcus was saying, "but I'm concerned about the professional boundaries. I'm not sure what you mean. James is my business partner and my friend. I've seen him get distracted before, but never like this. We work well together. The results speak for themselves. I'm not questioning your work. I'm questioning your motives." James saw Sarah's posture stiffen. "Excuse me? You're a single mother with financial problems. James is wealthy and clearly fond of your daughter. It's a convenient situation for you." "Mr. James," Luna tugged on his sleeve, "why does Mama look upset?" Through the glass, James could see Sarah's face flushing with anger. He moved toward the door, but her voice carried clearly now. "Let me make something very clear, Mr. Thompson. I didn't ask for this job. James offered it because he needed someone who understood the driver experience. If you think I'm using my daughter to manipulate him, you don't know me at all." "I don't know you," Marcus replied. "That's the point. You show up with a sob story and suddenly James is reorganizing his entire life around you and your kid." "Mama's mad," Luna observed quietly. James was already moving toward the door when Sarah's voice cut through the air like ice. "My sob story is called working 3 jobs to support my child. My qualifications are 8 months of using your platform and 6 years of marketing experience. And if James is making changes to his life, maybe you should ask him why instead of assuming it's my fault." "Sarah," James said, stepping into the hallway. Both Marcus and Sarah turned to him. Sarah's eyes were bright with unshed tears of anger, while Marcus looked stubbornly defensive. "Is there a problem here?" James asked. No problem, Sarah said tightly. Mr. Thompson was just clarifying my role in the company, which is driver experience consultant. Nothing more, nothing less. James felt something cold settle in his stomach. The warmth that had been building between them over the past weeks seemed to evaporate in an instant. Of course, he said carefully. Marcus, could you give us a minute? Marcus nodded and headed back toward his office, but not before giving James a look that clearly said, I told you so. Sarah, I should get Luna home for her nap, Sarah said, already moving back toward the conference room. About what Marcus said, he's protecting his friend, I understand that. She gathered Luna's art supplies with quick, efficient movements. But I need you to understand something too, James. I'm here because I'm good at this job, not because I need rescuing. I know that. Do you? She looked at him directly for the first time since the confrontation. Because sometimes the way you look at me, the way you are with Luna, it feels like more than professional interest. James's heart started beating faster. Would that be a problem? Sarah was quiet for a long moment, watching Luna carefully put each crayon back in its proper place. Yes, she said finally, it would be a problem, because I can't afford to get this wrong. Luna and I were finally stable for the first time in months. I won't risk that for whatever this is. What if I told you it doesn't have to be a risk? Everything is a risk when you have a child depending on you. Luna looked up from her crayons. Mama, are we leaving? Yes, baby. Say goodbye to Mr. James. Luna ran to James and hugged his legs. Will you be here tomorrow? I'll be here, James promised, his eyes on Sarah. Good. I want to show you my homework. Homework? James looked confused. I'm teaching her letters, Sarah explained. She's been practicing writing everyone's names. After they left, James stood alone in his conference room, surrounded by the lingering scent of Sarah's perfume and the echo of Luna's laughter. Marcus appeared in the doorway. You're in deep, aren't you? Marcus said. Deeper than I realized. She's not wrong, you know. About the professional boundaries, this could get messy. James picked up the drawing Luna had left on the table, 3 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. Maybe some things are worth the mess. And if it doesn't work out? You lose a good consultant, she loses a job she needs. And that little girl loses someone she's clearly attached to. James looked at his friend. When did you become so cynical? Around the time I watched you get your heart broken by Victoria. At least she was in your social circle. This situation has disaster written all over it. Or it has possibility written all over it. James, I care about them, Marcus. Both of them. More than I've cared about anyone in a long time. Caring isn't enough, you live in different worlds. So did my parents, and they made it work for 30 years. Marcus sighed. Just be careful, okay? Don't let your feelings cloud your judgment. Sarah's right. She has more to lose than you do. That evening, James sat in his penthouse looking out at the Seattle skyline. His refrigerator now held Luna's drawings, his office smelled like the apple juice she spilled last week, and his routine had completely restructured itself around their daily visits. For the first time in years, his apartment felt too quiet. He pulled out his phone and started to text Sarah, then stopped. She'd made her position clear, professional only. But as he looked at Luna's latest drawing on his coffee table, James realized it might already be too late for that. Some lines, once crossed, couldn't be uncrossed. And looking at that picture of 3 people holding hands, James wasn't sure he wanted to go back anyway. You look beautiful, James said, as Sarah adjusted her blazer in the reflection of his office window. The Fresh Connect annual company event was starting in an hour, and her hands were trembling slightly. I feel like I'm wearing a costume, Sarah admitted. She'd bought the dress with her first consulting paycheck, a simple black number that was professional but elegant. Are you sure I belong at this thing? You belong there more than anyone else. You're the director of driver relations now, remember? Sarah had been promoted the week before, much to Marcus's barely concealed displeasure. The title came with a substantial salary increase and her own office complete with a small play area for Luna that James had insisted on. What if they ask me questions I can't answer? Then you'll figure it out. You always do. James straightened his tie, trying to ignore how stunning she looked. Besides, half these people couldn't survive one day doing deliveries. Luna looked up from her coloring book at James's desk. Mama, you're pretty like a princess. Thank you, baby. Mrs. Chen will be here soon to pick you up for your sleepover. Can Mr. James come read me a story at Mrs. Chen's? Mr. James has to go to the grown-up party, Sarah said quickly, avoiding James's eyes. Maybe tomorrow night, James offered, and Sarah shot him a warning look. The event was held at Seattle's most exclusive hotel, with crystal chandeliers and waiters carrying champagne on silver trays. Sarah felt every bit the imposter as she walked into the ballroom beside James. James, a silver-haired woman in an expensive gown, approached them. "How wonderful to see you, darling. Mrs. Patterson, I'd like you to meet Sarah Martinez, our Director of Driver Relations. Sarah, this is Patricia Patterson from the Seattle Business Council." "How lovely," Mrs. Patterson said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "And what's your background, dear?" "I worked as a Fresh Connect driver before joining the corporate team," Sarah said, lifting her chin. "How interesting. I suppose that gives you a unique perspective." Before Sarah could respond, Marcus appeared with a woman Sarah didn't recognize. She was tall and blonde, wearing a dress that probably cost more than Sarah's monthly rent. "James," Marcus said, "look who decided to surprise us." The blonde woman smiled and kissed James's cheek. "Hello, stranger." "Victoria," James said, his voice carefully neutral. "I didn't know you were back in town. Flew in from Paris this morning. I couldn't miss the big company celebration." Victoria's eyes moved to Sarah with keen interest. "And you must be the famous consultant I've been hearing about." "Sarah Martinez," Sarah said, extending her hand. "Victoria Sterling, James and I have a history." The way she said it made Sarah's stomach clench. This was James's ex-fiancée, the one Marcus had mentioned in passing. Victoria was everything Sarah wasn't. Polished, sophisticated, clearly comfortable in this world of wealth and influence. "Sarah has revolutionized our driver relations," James said, his tone proud but slightly defensive. "How wonderful," Victoria purred. "Tell me, Sarah, what did you do before you became a consultant?" "I delivered food." "For how long?" 8 months. "And before that?" Sarah felt heat creeping up her neck. "I was between jobs after my daughter was born." "Oh, you have a child. How old?" 3. "And the father?" "Victoria," James warned. "I'm just making conversation." Victoria's smile was sharp. "It's so admirable working mothers, especially single ones. You must be very resourceful." Sarah understood the subtext perfectly. Victoria was questioning her motives, her qualifications, her very presence in this room, and she was doing it with a smile that made it hard to call out directly. "Excuse me," Sarah said. "I should check on the driver appreciation presentation." She escaped to the ladies' room, where she gripped the marble counter and tried to steady her breathing. Through the bathroom door, she could hear the sound of laughter and conversation from the ballroom. "You don't belong here," she whispered to her reflection. When she returned to the ballroom, James was deep in conversation with the development team. Victoria had positioned herself beside him, her hand resting possessively on his arm as she laughed at something he'd said. "Sarah," Jennifer from marketing waved her over. "We were just talking about your presentation. Everyone's excited to hear about the driver feedback program." For the next hour, Sarah threw herself into networking, discussing the new initiatives with department heads and explaining the driver perspective to executives who had never considered it before. Her confidence grew as she realized she really did know what she was talking about. But Victoria was never far away, watching with calculating eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen," James's voice echoed through the ballroom as he took the microphone. "Thank you all for being here tonight. This year has been transformative for Fresh Connect, largely due to the insights of our newest team member." Sarah felt dozens of eyes turn toward her as James continued. "Sarah Martinez joined us as a consultant and quickly became indispensable. Her driver perspective has helped us implement changes that have increased driver satisfaction by 25% and reduced turnover by 30%. Applause filled the room, but Sarah noticed some of the clapping was polite rather than enthusiastic. Sarah will now present our new driver support initiatives. As Sarah walked to the front of the room, she caught Victoria's expression, a combination of annoyance and something else, something calculating. Sarah's presentation went well. She spoke confidently about the transparent pricing model, the car maintenance fund, and the mental health resources they were implementing for drivers. The questions afterward were mostly supportive, though she noticed some skeptical faces in the crowd. "Excellent work," James said as she rejoined him after the presentation. Thank you. I think it went okay. Better than okay, you were brilliant. Victoria appeared beside them as if summoned. Such an inspiring story, she said to Sarah. James always did have a soft spot for charity cases. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. Excuse me? Oh, I don't mean it negatively. It's wonderful how he's helping you transition from delivery work to corporate life. Very generous of him. Sarah earned her position, James said, his voice tight. Of course she did. Victoria's smile was venomous. Though I have to wonder, did you earn it before or after you started bringing your daughter to the office? Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. What are you implying? Nothing at all. I just think it's sweet how James has taken such a personal interest in your family situation. Anonymous bonuses to struggling drivers, job offers, childcare accommodations. It's all very touching. The words hit Sarah like ice water. Anonymous bonuses. Victoria looked delighted by Sarah's confusion. Oh, you didn't know. James has been supplementing driver payments for months, especially for single parents in difficult situations. I have the financial reports if you'd like to see them. Sarah turned to James, whose face had gone pale. Is that true? Sarah, let me explain. Is it true? Yes, but how long? James looked like he was about to be sick. 6 months. 6 months. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. You've been paying me extra money for 6 months. It wasn't about you specifically. It was a program for all drivers who... Don't. Sarah held up her hand. Just don't. Victoria was watching the exchange with obvious satisfaction. I'm sure James had the best intentions. He's always been a sucker for a sob story. That's enough, Victoria, James snapped. But Sarah was already backing away. I need some air. She pushed through the crowd toward the hotel's terrace, her mind reeling. 6 months. He'd been watching her, helping her, manipulating her situation for 6 months before they ever officially met. James caught up with her outside. Sarah, please let me explain. Explain what? That everything between us has been built on your charity? She turned to face him, tears threatening to spill. That job offer, this promotion, was any of it real? All of it was real. The bonuses were separate. They were you deciding I was a project worth saving. Sarah's voice cracked. God, I'm so stupid. I actually thought you saw me as an equal. I do see you as an equal. No, you see me as a charity case who comes with a cute kid and a sad story. Victoria was right. You have a soft spot for helping people, and I was just the latest recipient. That's not true. Isn't it? Sarah wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Tell me honestly, James. If I wasn't a struggling single mother, would you have offered me this job? James was quiet for too long. That's what I thought, Sarah said. Sarah, please, I need to go home to my daughter. She walked back through the ballroom, ignoring the curious stares and whispered conversations. Victoria was holding court near the bar, no doubt spreading her version of what had just happened. As Sarah waited for her Uber, she felt the full weight of her humiliation settling in. She'd actually started believing she belonged in James's world, that her feelings for him might be reciprocated, that Luna could have the stable father figure. She'd never known. Instead, she was just another one of James Wellington's charitable acts. Her phone buzzed with texts from James, but she deleted them without reading. By the time she got home, she'd made her decision. Tomorrow, she would submit her resignation. She'd proven she could succeed in the corporate world. She could find another job, one where she wasn't anybody's charity case. But as she paid Mrs. Chen and carried sleeping Luna to her own bed, Sarah couldn't shake the memory of James's face when Victoria had revealed his secret. He'd looked devastated, not guilty. Maybe that was just another thing she'd been wrong about. Your resignation is unacceptable, James said, standing in Sarah's new office doorway 3 days after the company event. Her desk was already cleared, personal items packed in a small cardboard box. It's not up for negotiation. Sarah didn't look up from her computer, where she was finishing her transition notes. I've documented all ongoing projects and trained Jennifer to handle driver communications. Sarah, please, we need to talk about what happened. There's nothing to talk about. She finally met his eyes, and James was struck by how cold they were. I've learned everything I need to know. You've learned Victoria Sterling's version of events. I've learned the truth. James stepped into the office and closed the door. The truth is more complicated than she made it sound. Is it? Because the truth seems pretty simple to me. You felt sorry for the struggling single mom, so you helped her out. You gave her money, then you gave her a job, then you gave her a promotion. Very generous. It wasn't about pity. Then what was it about? James ran his hands through his hair, trying to find the right words. The driver bonus program started because I realized the platform wasn't paying enough. I looked at the data and saw that single parents were struggling the most, so I targeted assistance to them. How noble! It wasn't noble, it was business. High turnover costs money. Unhappy drivers provide bad service. I was trying to fix a problem. And I was just another problem to fix. No, James's voice was fierce. You were never a problem. You were the solution. Sarah finally stopped typing and looked at him fully. What's that supposed to mean? It means that for months I watched you work. I saw how professional you were, how kind you were to difficult customers, how you always delivered on time even when everything was working against you. I saw you as the best example of what our drivers could be. So you decided to study me like a lab rat. I decided to help you because you deserved it. And when your car broke down that day, when I opened my door and saw you crying with Luna in your arm, it wasn't charity, Sarah. It was recognition. Recognition of what? Of someone who was exactly what my company needed. Someone who understood our drivers, because she was one of them. Someone who could help me build something better. Sarah laughed bitterly. And the fact that I was a single mother with no other options made me the perfect candidate, right? Desperate enough to say yes, grateful enough to stay loyal. That's not, isn't it? Sarah stood up, her hands shaking slightly. Be honest, James. Would you have offered this job to some guy named Dave who delivered your food? Or did you need the struggling mom with the cute kid to make you feel good about yourself? James was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, he said finally. At least you're honest. But I know this, James continued. Dave wouldn't have revolutionized our driver relations program. Dave wouldn't have increased satisfaction scores by 25%. Dave wouldn't have made me realize that my company was failing the people who made it successful. Any competent consultant could have done that. Could they have made me care about it the way you did? Sarah's composure cracked slightly. Don't. Could they have made me want to be better, not just as a CEO, but as a person? James, stop. Could they have made me fall in love? Don't you dare! Sarah's voice was sharp. Don't you dare use that word as another way to manipulate me. I'm not manipulating you, I'm telling you the truth. Your truth, maybe, but the truth is also that I spent 8 months struggling to keep a roof over my daughter's head while you watched me like some kind of social experiment. The truth is that you had the power to help drivers all along, but you only did it after you met one that interested you personally. That's not fair. Fair? Sarah's laugh was hollow. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been fixing the driver payment system before people like me had to choose between gas money and groceries. Fair would have been transparent about your bonus program instead of letting me think I was finally succeeding on my own. James felt like she'd hit him. You were succeeding on your own. Was I? Or was I succeeding because you were pulling strings behind the scenes? The bonus money helped with your finances, but everything else was you. Your insights, your expertise, your ability to connect with people. Stop. Sarah picked up her box and moved toward the door. I can't do this anymore. Where are you going? I have 3 job interviews this week. Turns out my experience here actually means something to other companies. Of course it does. You're brilliant at what you do. Maybe. But I'll never know for sure as long as I'm here, will I? There will always be the question of whether I earned it or whether you gave it to me. James stepped aside as she reached the door. What about Luna? Sarah's step faltered. What about her? She'll miss this place. She'll miss you. Sarah's voice was softer now, tinged with sadness. But she's 3 years old. She'll adapt. And you? Sarah looked at him for a long moment. I'll adapt too. After she left, James stood alone in her empty office. The walls still held Luna's drawings, and the small play area in the corner looked forlorn without its primary occupant. Marcus appeared in the doorway. I heard she's really leaving. Looks that way. Maybe it's for the best. James turned to his friend with an expression that made Marcus take a step back. How is this for the best? Because now you can focus on the company without distractions, and she can find a job where the lines aren't blurred. She was the best thing that happened to this company. She was also the best thing that happened to you, but maybe that's the problem. James walked to the window, looking out at the Seattle skyline. Somewhere out there, Sarah was probably explaining to Luna why they wouldn't be visiting Mr. James anymore. I screwed this up, didn't I? Yeah, Marcus said gently, you really did. How do I fix it? I don't think you can. At least not right now. Sarah's right about the power imbalance. She needs to prove to herself that she can succeed without your help. And what am I supposed to do in the meantime? You figure out whether you are helping her because you care about her or because you care about her. There's a difference. I know the difference. Do you? Because from the outside, it looked like you were trying to solve her problems so she'd stay in your life. James considered this. Maybe I was. That's not love, James, that's need. Over the following weeks, James threw himself into work, but nothing felt the same. The driver satisfaction scores remained high thanks to Sarah's initiatives, but without her passionate advocacy, new improvements stagnated. He found himself checking Fresh Connect's driver forums obsessively, looking for complaints or suggestions that might have crossed Sarah's desk. Several drivers had posted, asking what happened to Sarah M., who used to respond to their concerns so quickly. James started responding to driver complaints himself, but his answers lacked Sarah's personal touch. He was good at solving problems, but Sarah had been good at understanding people. Meanwhile, Sarah's absence echoed through his personal life as well. His penthouse felt enormous and sterile again. He'd kept Luna's drawings on his refrigerator, but looking at them only made him feel worse. 3 weeks after Sarah's resignation, James received an unexpected visitor. She got the job at Rideshare Plus, Marcus announced, walking into James's office without knocking. What job? Director of Driver Experience. 50% higher salary than what we were paying her. Stock options. Full benefits including childcare assistance. James felt something cold settle in his stomach. How do you know this? Jennifer keeps in touch with her. Apparently Sarah's first initiative is implementing a transparent pricing model, just like the one she developed here. Good for her. Is it? Because now our biggest competitor has hired away our best talent, and she's using our strategies against us. James looked up from his computer. Are you here to make me feel worse about this situation? I'm here to point out that your noble gesture of letting her go has backfired spectacularly for everyone. She needed to prove herself independently. And now she has. She's proven she's valuable enough for our biggest competitor to poach her with a huge offer. Meanwhile, we're back to having driver satisfaction scores that are good, but not great. And you're miserable. James wanted to argue, but Marcus was right about all of it. There's something else, Marcus said. Jennifer mentioned that Sarah's ex-boyfriend has been sniffing around. Apparently he heard about her new job and her salary increase. What does he want? Custody of Luna. Claims he's ready to be a father now that Sarah's financially stable. James shot to his feet. He can't do that. He can try. And Sarah's dealing with it alone because she's too proud to ask for help. She shouldn't have to deal with it alone. No, she shouldn't. But that's the choice she made. The question is, what are you going to do about it? James looked out his office window toward downtown Seattle, where Sarah was probably working late at her new job, trying to prove herself all over again while facing a custody battle that could destroy everything she'd built. I don't know, he said quietly. But as he stood there, thinking about Luna's drawings on his refrigerator and Sarah's passionate defense of struggling drivers, James realized he did know. He knew exactly what he was going to do. The question was whether it would be enough to fix what he'd broken. The family court waiting room smelled like disinfectant and desperation. Sarah sat rigidly in an uncomfortable plastic chair, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. Across the room, her ex-boyfriend Derek lounged casually beside his lawyer, occasionally glancing her way with a smug expression that made her stomach turn. Martinez versus Coleman, the bailiff called. Sarah's lawyer, a tired-looking public defender named Mr. Garcia, gathered his papers. Remember, just answer the questions directly. Don't let them provoke you. Inside the courtroom, Derek's expensive attorney wasted no time painting Sarah as an unfit mother who'd used her child to manipulate wealthy men for financial gain. Your Honor, Miss Martinez has a pattern of involving her daughter in inappropriate relationships with employers. She brought the child to business meetings, used her as a prop to gain sympathy, and when that relationship ended, She immediately moved on to another company. Objection, Mr. Garcia said wearily. Irrelevant. I'll allow it, Judge Morrison replied. Continue, Counselor. My client, Mr. Coleman, has recently achieved financial stability and wishes to provide his daughter with a stable home environment, free from her mother's questionable professional relationships. Sarah felt sick as Derek's lawyer continued, twisting her success story into something sordid and calculated. By the time Mr. Garcia stood to present her defense, Sarah was sure she'd already lost. Your Honor, Miss Martinez is a devoted mother who has worked tirelessly to provide for her daughter. Her professional achievements speak to her character and stability. Achievements that came from leveraging her personal relationships, Derek's lawyer interrupted. That's enough, Judge Morrison said. I'd like to hear from character witnesses. Mr. Garcia looked apologetic. Your Honor, we have several colleagues prepared to testify, but they're not present today due to scheduling conflicts. Sarah's heart sank. This was it. She was going to lose Luna because she couldn't afford the kind of legal representation Derek had somehow managed to secure. The courtroom door opened quietly, and Sarah heard footsteps behind her. She turned to see Marcus Thompson walking down the aisle, followed by Jennifer from marketing, then several other Fresh Connect employees she recognized. Your Honor, a familiar voice said from the back of the courtroom, I apologize for the interruption, but I believe we have some relevant character witnesses. Sarah's breath caught as James Wellington stepped into view, wearing a navy suit and carrying a folder thick with documents. And you are? Judge Morrison asked. James Wellington, CEO of Fresh Connect Technologies. Ms. Martinez was our Director of Driver Relations until recently. Derek's lawyer stood immediately. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. These witnesses weren't on our list. They weren't on ours either, Mr. Garcia admitted, looking as surprised as Sarah felt. I'll allow testimony from employment-related witnesses, the judge decided, but keep it brief. Marcus was called first. He testified about Sarah's professionalism, her innovative solutions to complex problems, and her dedication to improving conditions for thousands of drivers. In 15 years of business partnerships, Marcus concluded, I've never seen anyone work harder or care more about doing the right thing than Sarah Martinez. Jennifer followed, describing Sarah's mentorship of younger employees and her advocacy for working parents throughout the company. Then James was called to the witness stand. Mr. Wellington, Derek's lawyer began, isn't it true that you hired Ms. Martinez because you felt sorry for her situation as a single mother? No, James said clearly. I hired Ms. Martinez because she was the most qualified person I'd ever met for the position. Her insights revolutionized our company's approach to driver relations. But you had a personal relationship with her, didn't you? I had professional respect for her that grew into personal admiration, yes. And you provided her with financial assistance outside of her employment? James glanced at Sarah before answering. I implemented a bonus program for all drivers facing financial hardship. Ms. Martinez was one of many beneficiaries, but the program existed independently of my professional relationship with her. How convenient. Your Honor, James said, addressing the judge directly, may I speak candidly about Ms. Martinez's character? Proceed. Sarah Martinez is the most dedicated mother I've ever known. She worked multiple jobs to support her daughter, often bringing Luna to our offices because she couldn't afford separate childcare. Not once did she use her situation to ask for special treatment. Instead, she worked harder than anyone else and produced results that benefited thousands of families. James pulled a document from his folder. This is a petition signed by over 200 Fresh Connect drivers, thanking Ms. Martinez for improvements she made to their working conditions. These are people whose lives she improved while managing her own challenges as a single parent. Sarah felt tears threatening as James continued. Luna Martinez is loved, nurtured, and protected by a mother who has sacrificed everything for her well-being. To suggest that Ms. Martinez is anything other than an exemplary parent is not just wrong, it's insulting to every working mother who's doing her best in difficult circumstances. Thank you, Mr. Wellington, the judge said. So you may step down. But James wasn't finished. Your Honor, there's one more thing. He reached into his jacket and pulled out another folder. These are financial records showing that Mr. Coleman has been employed for only 6 weeks and has outstanding debts totaling $47,000. His sudden interest in custody coincides directly with news of Ms. Martinez's career advancement and salary increase. Derek's lawyer jumped up. Objection, this information wasn't disclosed. Because it was obtained this morning, James said calmly, along with police reports showing 3 domestic disturbance calls to Mr. Coleman's address in the past 2 months. The courtroom erupted as Derek leaped to his feet. Those charges were dropped because the complainants were too afraid to testify, James replied. That's enough! Judge Morrison banged her gavel. Counselors, approach the bench. After a heated sidebar discussion, the judge returned to her seat with a stern expression. Mr. Coleman, I'm troubled by the timing of your custody petition and the information that's been presented about your recent behavior. Ms. Martinez, you have clearly provided a stable, loving environment for your daughter while building a successful career. Sarah held her breath. Custody remains with Ms. Martinez. Mr. Coleman, you may petition for supervised visitation once you've completed anger management counseling and maintained steady employment for 6 months. This court is adjourned. Sarah's knees nearly gave out as relief flooded through her. Mr. Garcia was shaking her hand and congratulating her, but all she could focus on was James, who was accepting thanks from Marcus and the other witnesses who had appeared on her behalf. Outside the courthouse, Sarah finally caught up with him. How did you know? She asked. Marcus told me about the custody hearing. I couldn't let you face it alone. The financial records, the police reports. How did you get all that so quickly? James looked slightly embarrassed. I may have hired a private investigator and called in a few favors with people who owe me money. Why? Because Luna belongs with you. Because you're an incredible mother. Because... James took a breath. Because I love you. Both of you. Sarah stared at him. James, I know you don't trust my motives, and I understand why, but this isn't about business or charity or trying to fix your problems. This is about the fact that my life has been empty without you and Luna in it. It's not that simple. It could be. Before Sarah could respond, Luna came running across the courthouse steps, having spotted James from where she'd been waiting with Mrs. Chen. Mr. James! She shrieked, launching herself into his arms. I missed you so much! James hugged her tightly, his eyes closing as if he was memorizing the moment. I missed you too, sweetheart. Are you coming home with us? Luna, Sarah said gently. Mr. James has his own home. But I drew him a new picture. It's on our refrigerator waiting for him. Sarah looked at James holding her daughter, saw the genuine love and joy on his face, and felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble. What does the picture show? James asked Luna seriously. It's our family, you and Mama and me at the park with a puppy. A puppy? For when we all lived together in the big house. Sarah's heart clenched. Luna, honey, we've talked about this. Actually, James said quietly, I've been thinking about getting a puppy. My apartment is too quiet. He looked at Sarah over Luna's head. I know I hurt you. I know I handled everything wrong, but I also know that these past weeks without you have been the loneliest of my life. James, I'm not trying to fix your problems anymore, Sarah. I'm asking you to help me fix mine. What problems? You're successful, you're wealthy. I'm alone, James said simply. I built a company, I have money, I can buy anything I want, but none of it means anything without people to share it with. Luna squirmed down from his arms and took both their hands. See? We fit together. Looking down at her daughter's small hands connecting them, Sarah felt the last of her resistance crumble. I got the Rideshare Plus job, she said. I know. Congratulations. I start Monday. You'll be amazing. It's good money. Better than what you were paying me. You deserve it. Sarah studied his face, looking for any sign of wounded pride or masculine ego. She found only genuine happiness for her success. The custody battle isn't over, she warned. Derek will probably appeal. Then we'll fight it together, if you want. It's going to be complicated, blending our lives, figuring out how this works. I like complicated. Complicated means it matters. Luna tugged on both their hands. Can we go get ice cream now? All this talking is making me hungry. Sarah laughed, despite herself. Ice cream sounds perfect. As they walked toward James's car, Luna skipping between them, Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope for a future that included not just survival, but happiness. James, she said, as he opened the car door for them. "Yeah? For the record, I love you too." His smile was brighter than the Seattle sunshine breaking through the clouds above them. 6 months later, they were married in the community garden where Sarah used to take Luna when they had no money for entertainment. The ceremony was small and intimate, attended by their chosen family of friends and colleagues. Luna served as flower girl, wearing a yellow dress that matched the sunflowers blooming around them. In her wedding speech, Sarah talked about how sometimes the most unexpected offers can change everything, not just professionally, but personally. "A year ago, I thought success meant having enough money to pay rent," she said, looking at James. "Now I know it means having someone who believes in your dreams, even when you've forgotten how to dream." James's response was simple. "Sarah taught me that the best things in life aren't things at all. They're moments like this, surrounded by people we love, building something beautiful together." As they danced to their first song as husband and wife, Luna sat on Marcus's shoulders, clapping along to the music. The foundation they'd started together had already helped 30 families achieve stability, and Sarah's work at Rideshare Plus was being recognized industry-wide. "No regrets?" James asked as they swayed together. "Only one," Sarah said. "What's that?" "I wish I'd trusted you sooner. We had to get here our own way, both of us." Looking around at their wedding guests, drivers who'd become friends, colleagues who'd become family, and Luna, who'd gained not just a father but an entire community of people who loved her, Sarah realized James was right. Sometimes the most beautiful destinations require the most difficult journeys, and sometimes the most unexpected offers really can change everything. 5 years had passed since that rainy Tuesday when Sarah's world changed with a single spilled delivery. Now standing in the bright, bustling lobby of the Wellington Family Foundation, she watched her 8-year-old daughter Luna explain the art therapy program to a group of visiting donors with the confidence of someone who'd grown up believing she could change the world. "And this painting was made by Mrs. Rodriguez after she got her new job," Luna said, pointing to a vibrant canvas on the wall. "She said the colors represent hope, but I think they look like a rainbow after a really big storm." James crouched down beside Luna, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. At 39, he'd traded his expensive suits for jeans and polo shirts most days, finding that the families they served responded better to approachability than authority. "That's a beautiful way to describe it, sweetheart," he said. "Why don't you show our guests the computer lab while I check on Mama?" Sarah was in her office on the second floor, her growing belly making it challenging to reach the files on her desk. At 7 months pregnant, she'd finally agreed to let James hire an assistant, though she still insisted on personally reviewing every family's application for services. "How's our son treating you today?" James asked, settling into the chair across from her desk. "He's been practicing soccer kicks all morning," Sarah said, rubbing her side. "I think he's going to be as energetic as his big sister." Speaking of Luna, she just gave a presentation that would make any CEO jealous. "The donors are eating out of her hand." Sarah smiled. "She takes after her father." "She takes after both of us. The compassion is definitely from you." Through the office window, they could see the foundation's main floor, where families attended job training classes. Children played in the supervised care area, and volunteers helped with everything from resume writing to tax preparation. What had started as Sarah and James's personal mission had grown into Seattle's most comprehensive family support center. "The Ramirez family got approved for the housing assistance program," Sarah said, picking up a file from her desk. "Single father, 2 kids, working 3 part-time jobs just like I used to." "What's his story?" "Wife died in a car accident last year. He's been struggling to keep up with rent while taking care of a 5-year-old and a toddler. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?" James reached for her hand. "What did you tell him?" "That sometimes the most unexpected help can change everything, and that he's not alone anymore." A knock on the door interrupted them. Marcus appeared, carrying Luna piggyback and grinning widely. "Sorry to interrupt the family meeting, but we have news," Marcus announced. "Good news or bad news?" Sarah asked. "The best news. The City Council just approved our proposal for the second location. We're officially expanding to Tacoma." Luna cheered from Marcus's shoulders. "Does that mean we can help even more families?" "Twice as many," James confirmed, pulling both Sarah and Luna into a hug that somehow accommodated Sarah's pregnant belly. And Marcus's awkward position. There's more, Marcus said. The Seattle Times wants to do a feature story about the Foundation's 5-year anniversary. They want to interview the founding family. Sarah and James exchanged glances. They'd always been private about their personal story, preferring to keep the focus on the families they served. "What do you think?" James asked Sarah. "I think," Sarah said slowly, "that maybe it's time to tell people that fairy tales can happen in real life, especially for working parents who think they're out of options." That evening, they sat in their living room, a compromise between James's penthouse and Sarah's small apartment that had become a warm, lived-in home filled with Luna's artwork, family photos, and the comfortable chaos of a house where a child was truly loved. Luna was curled up between them on the couch, reading aloud from her favorite book, while their golden retriever, Chance, snored at their feet. Sarah's laptop was open to the Rideshare Plus portal, where she still consulted part-time, helping other companies improve their driver relations programs. "Mama," Luna said, looking up from her book, "remember when we used to live in the little apartment and you had to deliver food to pay rent?" "I remember," Sarah said, stroking her daughter's hair. "Are you sad that you don't do that job anymore?" "No, baby, but I'm grateful for that job because it taught me how to work hard and it led me to Daddy. And to me having the best family ever," Luna added matter-of-factly. James laughed. "I think we're the lucky ones, Luna Bug." "I know," Luna said with 8-year-old confidence. "But I'm lucky too because I got the best parents and the best dog, and soon I'll have the best baby brother." As if summoned by her words, the baby kicked energetically, making Sarah gasp. "I think he agrees with you," Sarah said. Later that night, after Luna was asleep and they were lying in bed, James traced gentle patterns on Sarah's belly, while their son settled into a calmer rhythm. "Do you ever think about how different things could have been?" James asked quietly. "You mean if I hadn't dropped your food that day? Or if I hadn't invited you inside? Or if you hadn't agreed to work with me?" Sarah considered this. "I think we would have found each other eventually. Maybe not the same way, but somehow." "What makes you so sure?" "Because some people are meant to be in each other's lives. We were both looking for something we didn't even know we needed." "What were you looking for?" "Someone who saw me as more than just a struggling single mom. Someone who believed I could be successful and happy and loved." Sarah turned to face him in the darkness. "What were you looking for?" "A family," James said simply. "I just didn't realize it until I found you and Luna. And now? Now I can't imagine any other life." The next morning brought the familiar rhythm of their household. Luna practicing piano while James made breakfast. Sarah checking emails and fielding calls from families needing assistance. Chance weaving between everyone's legs hoping for dropped bacon. "The reporter from the Times is coming at 10, Sarah reminded James as he handed her a cup of decaf coffee. "Are you nervous?" "A little. It feels strange talking about our personal story." "We don't have to share anything you're not comfortable with." Luna looked up from her sheet music. "What's the reporter going to ask about?" "About how Mama and I met and how we started the foundation," James explained. "Oh, that's easy," Luna said. "Mama was working really hard to take care of me, and you were lonely in your big apartment, and then you both realized you could help more people together than you could apart." Sarah and James stared at their daughter, amazed by her simple but profound understanding of their story. "That's exactly right, sweetheart," Sarah said. "I know. I'm very smart," Luna replied, without a trace of arrogance. "Can I tell the reporter about how we help families like ours used to be?" "If you want to." "Good. Because I think other kids should know that even when things are hard, they might get better in ways you don't expect." When the reporter arrived, Luna insisted on giving her a tour of the foundation, explaining each program with the enthusiasm of someone who'd watched her parents pour their hearts into building something meaningful. "The job training program is really important," Luna said seriously, "because my mama always says that everyone deserves work that pays them enough to take care of their families." "And what about the childcare assistance?" the reporter asked. "That's for parents like my mama used to be, who have to bring their kids to work because they can't afford babysitters. Mama says no parent should have to choose between working and watching their children." Sarah listened from across the room, her heart swelling with pride at Luna's articulate explanation of their mission. During the interview, Sarah and James talked about their journey from that first meeting to building a foundation that had served over 800 families. They spoke about the challenges of blending their different backgrounds, the learning curve of running a non-profit, and the joy of watching families achieve stability and success. "What would you say to other single parents who are struggling like Sarah was 5 years ago?" the reporter asked. "That you're stronger than you know," Sarah said. "That asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And that sometimes the most unexpected opportunities can change everything if you're brave enough to say yes." "And what about wealthy individuals who might want to make a difference?" the reporter asked James. "That charity isn't about giving money to make yourself feel better," James replied. "It's about creating opportunities for people to succeed on their own terms. The best help empowers people to build their own futures." "What's next for the Wellington Family Foundation?" Sarah and James looked at each other, then at Luna, who was sitting quietly nearby, listening to every word. "We want to expand nationwide," James said. "Every city has families like ours used to be, working hard, but struggling to get ahead. If we can help even a fraction of them achieve stability, we'll have made a difference." "And personally," the reporter pressed, "what's next for your family?" Luna perked up immediately. "We're having a baby boy in 2 months, and I'm going to teach him how to paint and play piano and help families." "It sounds like you're raising the next generation of philanthropists," the reporter observed. "We're raising kids who understand that we all do better when we all do better," Sarah corrected gently. "That's not philanthropy, that's just being human." After the reporter left, Sarah found James in the foundation's kitchen, making Luna a snack while she worked on homework at one of the small tables they kept for children who came with their parents. "Do you think we did okay?" Sarah asked. "I think we told the truth about what matters," James replied. "That love can come from unexpected places, that families come in all forms, and that everyone deserves a chance to succeed." "Daddy," Luna said, looking up from her math worksheet, "when my baby brother is old enough, can he help at the foundation too?" "If he wants to, absolutely." "Good, because I think our family is really good at helping other families." As Sarah watched her husband help their daughter with homework, while their unborn son kicked gently against her ribs, she marveled at the journey that had brought them to this moment. 5 years ago, she'd been a struggling delivery driver who thought success meant simply surviving another month. Now she was building a legacy that would impact families for generations. The foundation's mission statement, framed on the wall nearby, captured everything they'd learned. Every family deserves the opportunity to thrive, not just survive. Sometimes all it takes is someone believing in their potential and providing the right support at the right moment. Looking around at the life they'd built together, not just the foundation, but their family, their home, their shared purpose, Sarah realized that the most unexpected offer hadn't been James's job proposal 5 years ago. It had been the offer of love, partnership, and the chance to build something bigger than either of them could have imagined alone. And as Luna finished her homework and James started dinner, while she answered emails from families needing help, Sarah knew that the best parts of their story were still being written. Sometimes fairy tales do come true in real life. They just look different than the storybooks suggest, messier, more complicated, but infinitely more beautiful because they're built on the foundation of real love, genuine partnership, and the shared commitment to lift others as they climb. 5 years later, Sarah Martinez Wellington had learned that the most unexpected offers really can change everything. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, they change not just your life, but the lives of countless others who come after you. The delivery that changed everything had become a foundation that would help families for decades to come. And Luna's simple drawing of 3 people holding hands under a rainbow had become the symbol of an organization that proved every day that love multiplies when it's shared.